Imagine a 5-year-old girl um, locked away in a closet, her tiny body just wasting away.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking.
That was the reality for Kinsley Welty in Indiana.
Yeah.
She weighed less when she died than she did at age 2.
Oh my gosh.
A dresser blocked the closet door, and her cries for food were ignored.
God, that's awful.
It's a case that's sparked outrage and calls for justice, and we'll be revisiting Kinsley's story a bit later in the deep dive.
Yeah, we should.
But Kinsley's case isn't the only one we're diving into today.
Right.
We've got updates on a whole slate of ongoing true crime cases,
Wow.
each with its own twists and turns
I bet.
that'll leave you on the edge of your seat.
Well, I'm ready.
So if you're fascinated by these kinds of deep dives, make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date.
Yeah, good advice.
All right, let's start with the Karen Reed trial in Boston.
Okay.
This case has been generating a lot of headlines.
It has.
Just to recap, Karen Reed is accused of murdering her boyfriend, a Boston police officer.
Right.
But she insists that someone else is responsible.
Hmm.
The trial has just begun, and it's already gotten pretty intense.
I can imagine.
So what's interesting here is that the judge has allowed Karen to use the third-party culprit defense.
Yeah.
In simple terms, this means her legal team can present evidence suggesting that someone else committed the crime.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this decision has been crucial in shaping the trial's direction.
Definitely.
And we can't ignore the groundswell of public support for Karen.
Oh, yeah.
There have been protests outside the courthouse, with many people believing there's more to the story than meets the eye.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflicting evidence and many unanswered questions swirling around this case.
Like what?
Well, for example, some strange Google searches were made by people the boyfriend was with on the night of his death. And there are allegations of a potential cover-up within the police department.
Oh, wow.
It sounds like a real tangled web.
It does.
What does all this mean for the trial moving forward?
Well, it's going to be a battle of narratives. The prosecution needs to present a rock-solid case pointing solely to Karen as the perpetrator.
Right.
But her defense, on the other hand, will focus on highlighting those inconsistencies and raising enough reasonable doubt to challenge the prosecution's version of events.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
It's certainly a case that's going to keep us all guessing.
for sure.
Now, let's move on to another high-profile case that has captivated the nation.
Okay.
Brian Kohberger, accused of murdering 4 Idaho college students.
Oh, yeah.
He's finally revealed his alibi, or at least part of it.
Uh-huh.
This is where things get really intriguing.
Oh, so?
Kohberger claims he was out for a late-night drive, looking at the stars and hiking during the time the murders took place.
Hiking and stargazing.
Yeah.
That's a stark contrast to the brutal crime he's accused of.
Exactly. And his defense team plans to support this alibi with phone data and possibly even expert testimony related to cell tower analysis.
Wow.
They've gone so far as to claim that exculpatory evidence, meaning evidence that could potentially clear Kohberger, has been withheld. So Kohberger's alibi seems unusual given the charges.
He does.
What are the potential challenges his defense team might face in convincing the jury?
Well, they'll need to create a timeline that aligns perfectly with the digital evidence and expert testimony.
Yeah.
They'll also need to address any gaps or inconsistencies in Kohberger's account of his whereabouts that night.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and the prosecution will likely try to poke holes in the alibi and present a stronger counter-narrative.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Shifting gears to a case that hits close to home for many, the case of the 2 missing Kansas moms,
Okay.
Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly.
Yeah,
This case has taken a heartbreaking turn.
I heard about this.
We were all holding out hope for their safe return, but the news took a dark turn.
Oh, no.
Tragically, their bodies have been found,
Oh, gosh.
and 4 individuals have been arrested and charged with their murders.
Wow.
This case, which initially focused on a contentious custody battle, has become even more disturbing with these recent developments.
Yeah, you never know what's going on behind closed doors.
It's a reminder that even seemingly ordinary disagreements can escalate to unimaginable levels.
You're telling me.
So what's truly chilling is that one of the individuals arrested is Tiffany Adams,
What?
the grandmother of Veronica's children, who had custody of them at the time of the disappearance.
Really?
It's difficult to grasp how someone in that position could be involved in such a horrific act.
I know, it's just unbelievable.
The affidavits in this case paint a disturbing picture.
Yeah.
Tensions were already high due to Veronica's recent attempt to get more visitation time with her children. It seems this custody battle might have been the catalyst for the murders.
Wow.
There's also another layer to this story that adds another level of complexity and intrigue.
Okay, what's that?
The 4 individuals arrested are reportedly members of an anti-government religious group called God's Misfits.
God's misfits, huh?
That certainly adds a new dimension to the case.
It does.
And the details revealed in those affidavits are chilling.
Oh.
Cora Twombly, one of the suspects, allegedly confided in her 16-year-old daughter about the plan to kill Veronica.
No way.
Initially, they talked about a bizarre scheme involving throwing an anvil through her windshield.
What? An anvil.
Fortunately, they didn't go through with that plan,
Thank goodness.
but their alternative plan proved just as deadly.
Oh, no.
According to the daughter, Cora and her husband blocked the road,
Okay.
forcing Veronica and Jillian to a location where the other suspects were waiting.
So it was like a planned ambush?
Yeah, it appears to have been a carefully orchestrated ambush.
That's just terrifying.
And Tiffany Adams's Google searches before the incident add to the chilling nature of this case.
What did she search?
She was looking up things like taser pain levels, gun shops, prepaid cell phones, and even how to get someone out of their house.
Oh, my God.
Those searches certainly don't paint a picture of innocence, do they?
Not at all, no.
It suggests a degree of premeditation that's truly disturbing.
It really does.
And then there's the whole dug and then filled in on a property rented by another suspect,
Okay.
Tad Column.
Right.
Investigators believe that was meant to be their burial site.
It's just awful, the level of planning that went into this.
I know, it's really hard to comprehend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just awful, the level of planning that went into this.
It's hard to comprehend the level of cruelty involved in this case,
Right.
especially when you consider the children left behind without their mothers.
Absolutely. It's just heartbreaking.
This case is a stark reminder that darkness can lurk even in seemingly ordinary places.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of darkness lurking in unexpected places,
Okay.
the case of Shade Robinson,
I remember that name.
a college student who went missing after a first date, is a chilling example.
Yeah, what happened?
This 19-year-old went out with 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson,
Okay.
and what started as a night out ended in a horrifying nightmare.
Oh, no.
So Robinson's car was found engulfed in flames.
Oh,
And then tragically, body parts, later identified as hers, were discovered scattered in different locations.
no, that is just awful.
The brutality of this crime is truly appalling.
It is.
The evidence suggests a deliberate attempt not only to kill,
Right.
but also to dehumanize and try to erase the victim.
That's just sick.
The details of the police investigation only add to the horror of this case.
What did they find?
Phone location data placed Robinson at Anderson's house
Okay.
and also at the park where her leg was found.
So they had a digital trail.
Yeah, that digital trail was a crucial piece of the puzzle for investigators,
Makes sense.
providing a direct link between Anderson and the crime.
Wow.
He has since been arrested and faces charges of murder, mutilation, and arson.
It sounds like they have a pretty strong case against him.
Yeah, it does.
That's good.
But-
At least
but-
they caught the guy.
The community's response to this tragedy has been quite powerful.
Oh, yeah.
A pink-themed vigil was held in Robinson's honor,
That's nice.
and a GoFundMe was created to help her family and cover memorial expenses.
That's good. It's good to see people coming together to support the family.
Those acts of solidarity show just how deeply this case has affected people.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, communities can come together to support one another and seek justice.
Absolutely.
This case also serves as a chilling reminder about the importance of taking safety precautions,
Right.
especially in the world of online dating.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Online dating can be really dangerous.
You're absolutely right. It's crucial to be vigilant and prioritize your safety when meeting someone new,
Definitely.
particularly online.
Yeah.
Simple steps like sharing your plans with friends or family,
Mhm.
meeting in public places for the first few dates,
Right.
and trusting your instincts if something feels off can make a huge difference.
I think that's really good advice for everyone.
Now, let's turn our attention to a case in Nashville
Okay.
that has ignited controversy and left a family desperately searching for answers.
Oh, yeah. I think I saw something about this on the news.
The death of 22-year-old Riley Strain.
Riley Strain. Okay.
Strain vanished after a night out with friends in downtown Nashville
Okay.
and was later found dead in the Cumberland River.
Oh, wow.
While the police have ruled his death an accident,
Hmm.
his parents believe there is more to the story.
That's interesting.
The circumstances surrounding Strain's disappearance are troubling.
What happened?
He sent his mother a text message saying his drink tasted unusual.
Okay.
describing his rum and coke as tasting like barbecue sauce.
Barbecue sauce, that's weird.
Yeah, his mother found this odd and expressed concern,
Right?
but tragically, that was their last communication.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
What's adding fuel to the family's suspicions are rumors of frequent roofie incidents in Nashville bars
I've heard about that.
and allegations that the police haven't been proactive enough in addressing this issue
Oh, really?
because of concerns about the city's tourism industry.
So they're more worried about protecting the tourism industry than people's safety.
Well, that's what the allegations are. These concerns have led to public outcry and demands for a thorough and transparent investigation.
That makes sense.
The state has now stepped in to review camera footage from the bars Riley visited that night,
Okay.
hoping to piece together what happened.
Hopefully that will shed some light on what really happened.
It's a tragedy that has raised a lot of questions about safety and accountability.
It really has.
Hopefully this investigation will provide some clarity and closure for Riley's family, who deserve answers.
They do.
Now, let's circle back to the heartbreaking case of Kinsley Welty in Indiana.
Yeah, that poor little girl.
We've learned more about the truly horrific conditions she endured
Right.
and the systemic failures that allowed this tragedy to happen.
It's just unbelievable that something like this could happen in this day and age.
It's crucial to delve deeper into this story to understand the full extent of the neglect and abuse Kinsley suffered.
Definitely.
This wasn't a single instance of maltreatment.
Yeah.
It was a pattern of horrific abuse that spanned years.
Oh my.
Kinsley was removed from her mother's care at just 3 weeks old
Really?
due to appalling living conditions
Mm,
and her failure to thrive.
okay.
The environment was described as repulsive,
Oh my God.
with filth and hazards all over the home.
That's just awful.
It's infuriating to think about how many red flags were missed or ignored in this case.
It's just unbelievable how the system failed this poor child. I know, it's just unbelievable how the system failed this poor child.
Kinsley's paternal grandparents had cared for her at various points
Yeah.
and even tried to get custody,
Right.
but their efforts were thwarted by the state's reunification policies.
Yeah, those reunification policies, while often well-intentioned, can sometimes create blind spots.
Exactly.
And in Kinsley's case, the focus on reunification tragically failed to protect her from further harm.
The details of Kinsley's life
Yeah.
and ultimately her death are truly disturbing.
It's just awful.
Despite that initial intervention, she was eventually returned to her mother's custody. Sadly, the abuse resumed, culminating in her confinement to that feces-covered closet where she slowly starved to death.
God, that's just horrific to think about.
And to make matters even more heartbreaking, Kinsley's grandmother admitted that she had seen Kinsley's deteriorating condition,
Yeah.
but chose not to intervene.
Oh, wow.
This inaction highlights another layer of failure in this case, pointing to the complex dynamics within the family and the community's role in reporting suspected abuse.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation.
You've been following this case closely?
Uh-huh.
Does the grandmother's inaction surprise you?
Well, it's hard to say, it's easy to judge from the outside.
Yeah,
But it's important to remember that family dynamics can be incredibly complex.
for sure.
Fear, denial, or even a misplaced sense of loyalty can prevent people from taking action.
Right.
But still, this case underscores the critical need for bystanders to report suspected abuse.
Absolutely.
We can't rely solely on the system. We all have a role to play in protecting vulnerable children.
The public outcry following Kinsley's death has been significant,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talking about this case online.
with calls for reform within the Indiana Department of Child Services, or DCS.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, this tragedy will lead to much-needed changes
It really should.
and stronger measures to protect vulnerable children like Kinsley.
I agree.
These cases,
Yeah,
each tragic in its own way,
it's true.
highlight the darkness that can exist in unexpected places.
It's a scary thought, but it's important to be aware of.
They remind us of the importance of vigilance,
Mm-hmm.
advocacy, and holding accountable the systems that are designed to protect the vulnerable.
Absolutely. We can't just sit back and wait for things to change. We have to be proactive.
We must never become desensitized to these stories.
Definitely not.
Each life lost represents a failure on some level,
Yeah,
and we must learn from these failures to prevent future tragedies.
I agree.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed and even helpless when confronted with such heartbreaking cases.
Right. It's tough to hear about these things.
But it's important to remember that we're not powerless.
We're not.
We can channel these feelings of sadness and anger into positive action.
I like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't afford to turn away from these difficult stories.
We have to face them head on.
We need to stay informed,
Uh-huh.
engage in meaningful conversations, and push for change.
I agree.
Knowledge is power, and the more we understand these issues,
Right.
the better equipped we'll be to address them.
Exactly.
So where do we even begin?
That's a good question.
What can we do to make a real difference in the face of such tragedies?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed.
Okay.
Pay attention to these cases, share the stories with others,
Yeah,
and raise awareness about the systemic issues they highlight.
gotcha.
Don't let these stories fade into the background noise. Keep the conversations going.
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the daily grind
It is.
and tune out the difficult news,
Right.
but staying engaged is crucial if we want to see real change.
It-
Exactly, and don't underestimate the power of your voice.
Yeah.
Contact your elected officials, advocate for policy changes,
Uh-huh.
and support organizations that are working tirelessly to improve child protection services and address the root causes of violence.
That's great advice.
These cases often expose cracks in the system.
They do.
It's up to us to demand better, to push for reforms that prioritize the safety and well-being of vulnerable individuals.
I completely agree.
You're absolutely right, and even small acts of kindness can make a difference.
Yeah, like what?
Donating to organizations that support victims' families,
Okay.
volunteering your time at a local shelter, or simply being a supportive presence for someone in your life who might be struggling.
Uh-huh.
These actions, no matter how small they seem,
Right.
can contribute to a safer and more just society.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps.
Every voice raised against injustice,
Yeah.
every act of compassion
Right.
adds to a collective force for good.
I love that.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to mention another case that we've been following closely,
Okay.
the upcoming trial of Chad Daybell.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
We're going to dedicate an entire episode to unpacking the shocking details and developments in that case,
I can't wait to hear it.
which is sure to be a captivating deep dive.
Definitely.
It's a complex and fascinating case,
It is.
full of twists and turns. They will keep you on the edge of your seat.
I bet.
Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our in-depth analysis of the trial.
Will do.
Been a heavy episode today, filled with stories that remind us of the darkness that exists in our world.
Yeah, it has.
But it's also a call to action.
Absolutely.
We can't ignore these issues, and we can't afford to be silent.
You can't.
Remember, understanding these cases is often the first step toward preventing future tragedies.
I agree.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop fighting for a world where justice prevails.
Well said. I'm with you on that.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay safe and be well.
See you next time.